Another point that apparently they're not listening to, because that officer, I don't think was involved with the altercation, so he's supposed to be the peacemaker. And I believe that's the victim's brother there saying he came over just to jump the truck. And how much do you think we're gonna trust you from now on when it comes to these things? You just show up, slam him on the ground over a frozen pizza that he's saying, here's the receipt. In the same hand, they're trying to slam behind his back and break his arm and leg and all that they could to intimidate him. Why is there so much anger involved in that? Either way it goes, there's a little more details given by this, because the victim, his name is Dayton Borisov, and his wife Viviana had a few more details after they posted this on TikTok. And she said he paid for his pizza, and this gets worse. And an off-duty officer asked if he had a receipt. Why is there an off-duty officer asking if he had a receipt? I thought there was like 70-year-old folks that stand in front of Walmart asking for those. Anyways, he said yes, and he kept walking. Then the officer chased him down. Because, oh my God, you have a $2 pizza in your bag. And then someone asked if he's okay, and she pointed out he is okay. He just has some bruises and cuts from what the officers did to him. Then they gave my husband a ticket for resisting arrest. Yeah, it gets worse. So they gave him a ticket for resisting arrest, for a false arrest for something that he wasn't doing, that they assumed he was doing. When he was showing them the proof, they ignored it. Then after they got the real proof, they said, let's keep that charge of resisting arrest because, that whole ego thing we have to uphold here from what we've done. Kansas City cops pulling this off yet again. There's other corruption stories from the cops in this particular area, which we've seen in the past. I'm not sure if it directly connects to this, but there's one thing that goes across the board is this pompous approach and going, yo, we think you stole something. We're gonna go slam you on the ground and put your face on this filthy floor and continue to wiggle you around until we take you off because you resisted arrest. When you shouldn't have been arrested in the first place, when a conversation could be had. When someone goes, hey, you're leaving with that. It takes about 5 seconds to say, hey, turn around, show me the receipt. And when he doesn't, he can flash you a middle finger. Who cares? How does that change your life? But now lawsuits are coming. You would think under normal circumstances, police officers would be suspended, potentially fired for this aggression towards someone over, again, a frozen pizza. They'll roll on because once they go back and they talk to their superiors and they circle the wagons, they'll say, it's okay. We're supposed to do this because we're gonna deter other folks from walking in and potentially taking $4 to $5 worth of food, which he wasn't doing. Maybe I should have saved Lamar Odom for the back end of the show because that was depressing. Thanks you guys for joining me again on the program today. Yeah, we got there, Up next is the Young Turks. And a Casparian Cenk Uygur join you. I will not be here tomorrow though. My kid is graduating, so I gotta go be there for him. We do have Rayvana filling in for me, so please enjoy that. Should be a fabulous show tomorrow. I'll see you guys back on the back end on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you.
Turks, Jake Huger, Anna Kasparian with you guys. Of course it's gonna be a fun show. Everybody knows that. Did they finally kind of maybe get Trump?
People are saying.
People are saying it. Okay, the zone is flooded and so is the pool and so is the document room.
The likes of which you have never seen before.
Never seen it before. And are they, is there an actual effective candidate against Trump on the Republican side? Is that a thing?
Not really, no.
We're gonna find out though. We're gonna find out. It's a little bit more of a mixed question than normal.
Not really.
Normally I'd be like, oh, no way. But now,
I like that you're trying to build the suspense, but.
No, I genuinely believe it, as you're gonna see later in the show.
Okay.
And I'd like to add, okay.
Important words.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
All right, well, why don't we begin with Big Pharma greed, because this was something I gave you a little preview on a few weeks ago and now it's come to fruition. Pharmaceutical companies suing over having to negotiate with Medicare over a little handful of pharmaceutical drugs. The pharmaceutical company known as Merck has filed a lawsuit against the federal government following the passage of the provision in the Inflation Reduction Act that would allow for Medicare to negotiate drug prices on a select few drugs beginning in 2026. Now, this doesn't mean that Medicare will be able to negotiate the price of all drugs. It doesn't mean that they would be able to negotiate the price of a handful of drugs tomorrow. Just means that up to 10 drugs will be negotiated on by Medicare beginning in 2026. Merck ain't having it. They ain't having it. So they're trying to sue the federal government to put a stop to it. And so they're arguing that their constitutional rights are being violated. Let's try to understand their argument here. They say the program would coerce Merck to provide its products at government set prices, violating a clause of the Fifth Amendment that prohibits the government from taking private property for public use without just compensation. They also claim that the program would violate Merck's free speech rights by coercing the company to sign an agreement it did not agree with upon the conclusion of the negotiation. Just to give you a little sense of how well Merck is doing financially, Merck, which generated $14.5 billion in profit last year, not just revenue, 14.5 billion with a B in profit last year, claimed in a statement on Tuesday that the law would stifle the ability of it and its peers to make risky investments in new cures. Jake, what say you? Are you concerned about this?
Okay, I am actually concerned about it, and not from Merck's perspective, the opposite perspective. Guys, this is as big a blow against capitalism as you could possibly imagine. So, not in the left-wing direction, but in like an authoritarian direction, in an insane, complete and utter corporate rule direction. I don't know that anybody on the left or the right would be in favor of this. This is a frontal attack on capitalism, okay? So let me explain why. Merck is saying, now normally you negotiate price on anything, right? You go, whether it's a car, it's you buying something, the government buying something. Capitalism 101 is we negotiate prices and then we come to an agreement, or we don't, right? And we move on. So here they're saying no. Under the current law, which is already insane and already a giant affront to free markets, you're not allowed, the government's not allowed to negotiate drug prices. Never seen anywhere before, as to my knowledge, anywhere. It's insanity. Where a company says, I will charge you X, and you have no choice in the matter, you must pay me.
Right.
That's insane. Or that's the current state of affairs brought to you by George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. They all agreed to it. They're all intensely corrupt, if you ask me. Okay, so now Merck says, oh, you want to negotiate drug prices? That's against my rights. My right is to charge you whatever I want, and you shut your mouth, and you're not allowed to complain about it.
Freedom.
That's not how free markets work. And they're like, we're being coerced. Okay, no, you're not.
I know.
If the government gives you a price that's too low, then you just reject it. You do. Hey, if something costs you $10, you don't have to sell it for $9. You could just wait and see if you can sell it for $11 or $20, or don't sell it at all. Nothing is being coerced at all. This isn't one of the most outrageous lies I have ever seen go to court.
Right, so you already described and summarized what most legal experts are arguing. Legal experts are saying there's really no case here, and
none.
And essentially pointing to these constitutional protections as the defense against this provision is weak, to say the least. The argument here is, look, when it comes to negotiation, there are two parties engaged in that negotiation. Merck does not have to necessarily agree on the price that the Medicare program is pushing for through these negotiations. It's a back and forth. But look, the fact of the matter is, they don't want Medicare or anyone, any healthcare insurer, any health coverage plan to have the ability to negotiate the drug prices and get those prices down. They want to be the ones who set the prices, anything goes, and no one has any leverage in this incredibly broken system. That's part of the reason why here in the United States, even though the National Institutes of Health spend a ton of money on research and development, that's our taxpayer money. They funnel it to the pharmaceutical companies in order to encourage them through the research and development that we're funding to develop new drugs. And they're turning around and they're saying, we're taking all the risk and you don't want us to make a profit, you're setting prices. Everything they're saying here is a lie. And it would be true that they're taking all the risk if us, the taxpayers, weren't at least partially funding their research and development. Now, with that said,
I just want to say about the risk point. I want to come back to the freedom of speech point in a second too. But on risk, okay, then don't take it. Okay, you're making $14.5 billion in profits, and you're telling me there isn't enough money for you to take a risk to develop new drugs. 100% lie. Okay, because guys, it's the old Warren Buffett line. And Warren Buffett, when talking about higher taxes, he actually was in favor of higher taxes. And the right-wing argument was, well, if you make taxes higher, no one will invest. Warren Buffett's like, what real investor says, oh, I'm gonna have to pay a little bit more in taxes from the money, extra money I make, so I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna go home. That's not a thing. No. Investors invest because that's how they make money, okay? And drug companies make drugs that they sell at a tremendous profit. What, they're gonna turn down that profit?
Scared money don't make money.
No, no, I don't wanna take any risks. I don't want to take any risks, so I'm not gonna make any profit. Said no capitalist ever, okay?
Okay, so
totally absurd.
All right. Now, you're already animated, but get a load of how CNBC covered this, because during one of their well-known shows, Squawk Box, one of the hosts really felt the need to squawk quite a bit about this. Let's watch.
I can understand both sides on this, and that question, it's a political issue, it's an emotional issue. We want these companies to spend to develop these therapies, and they're the best in the world. And we, coming out of COVID, we're all thankful for the money pharma has invested in their businesses. When the government says, not only in addition to these laws and pricing and how they're going to negotiate, that you have to agree that these rules are fair, and this is where they're contesting this on a First Amendment right. Like, you're asking the drug companies to say, this is great. We think this is totally fair. We have no right to profitability. That's where this seems kind of absurd, and where I think they have a lot of room to push back.
Framing this as the federal government claiming that pharmaceutical companies have no right to profitability, that the federal government wants to stand in the way of profitability, is laughable to say the least. And remember what the first iteration of that provision was before Congress chopped it down to the, look, it's better than nothing, but if you look at the first iteration, the end result was pathetic to say the least. The first iteration allowed for, the whole point was to allow for Medicare to negotiate all drugs, as they should be allowed to do. But they whittled it down to 10 drugs that can be negotiated, and that will go into effect in 2026.
No, it's a joke, man. It's like 0.1% of the drugs. Biden and the corporate media are a bunch of clown liars pretending that they actually did something big here when they're actually protecting 99.9% of drugs and drug makers. But even that's not enough for Merck, and even that's not enough for CNBC. Understand, these guys are not at all capitalists. They're corporatists, and corporatists hate free markets. They want the corporations, big business, to run everything and to have a monopoly. And to set up absurdities like this where they capture the government to do crony capitalism, and then the government turns around and says, you have to pay, the American taxpayer has to pay whatever they charge. It's unheard of in capitalism. It's total mental ideology. Meanwhile, CNBC, they're making drug companies go into the free market. Did you see that graphic? Tantamount to extortion. But wait a minute, saying you can charge anything you want and the taxpayer has to pay for it, that's extortion. That's like literally the definition of extortion.
Absolutely.
Look, CNBC is pure, unfiltered corporate propaganda. It's like the it's like Walter White's meth of corporate propaganda. So they mainline it. They're like, you see, the government is saying that Merck has to agree that this is fair. No, the government didn't say that. The government just said we're going to negotiate prices, and wherever we come out will, I guess, be the fair market price. Like, that's a violation of our freedom of speech. Then every market transaction is a violation of your freedom of speech.
Okay.
I mean, beyond mental. I'm telling you, this is hilarious because this would, if the Supreme Court says yes to this, it would ironically totally destroy capitalism.
So I wanted to just quickly provide some receipts in regard to what types of government subsidies and government grants Merck specifically has received. So most of this funding and most of these subsidies were obtained beginning in 2012. So there's the Good Jobs First Subsidy Tracker. And you can go to that website to see just what kind of subsidies and grants these various companies get. This is for Merck, right? So apparently they get the bulk of their subsidies from state and local governments. And look at that amount. Since 2012, they've received 77 different awards from state and local governments to the tune of $142.9 million.
Why? They made $14.5 billion in profit. So why do we have to give them our money?
But guys, the reason why I share that with you is because every time they whine about how they take all the risks, understand that they are lying. The government, whether it's the federal government or whether it's state or local governments, will funnel taxpayer money or provide subsidies for these pharmaceutical companies for a variety of reasons. But certainly when it comes to research and development, the federal government gets real active. I mean, look at how much the federal government spent on basically providing research and development money for pharmaceutical companies for the COVID vaccine, right? Because honestly, if you really leave it to the free market, Cenk, let's also keep this real. They're not willing to take the risk on their own.
No, they are. That's
the investors,
no way.
Without the government helping them.
No, they're just bought. They have the government, so they're like, why don't we just make them give us $140 million since we already bought all these guys? Because Anna, so if you're talking about drugs on the edges where you're not positive that it's going to work and it's something you're not sure you could turn a profit on it, they're not going to develop those anyway, okay? But the core of their business is to make very, 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 very profitable drugs that we can't do without. They are going to do that no matter what, otherwise they're out of business, okay? To say like, oh my God, I was gonna make $14.5 billion in profit. Because you hurt my feelings, I'm not going to. Because you didn't give me a government subsidy, I'm not going to. It's not a thing. No capitalist that's worth their salt that would ever say that. That's absurd. So look, and guys, for like the tiny sliver of experimental drugs that maybe that they would decide not to risk their capital on and just instead take it home and hoard it, etc. For those tiny amount, you think it's worth it that we all overpay by trillions of dollars? No, it's a sham. It's a total and utter lie. Understand there's three parts of America, okay? Three branches politically. There's the left wing, there's the right wing, and there's a corporate wing. Now the corporate wing is tiny, it's like 1% of Americans.
American voters.
American voters, but unfortunately, they control almost all of the power. That is about 90% of the Democratic and Republican parties combined. That's the uniparty that everybody talks about. That is a corporate wing, okay? They're all lying to you. The Republicans are lying to you that they're right wing. The Democrats are lying to you that they're left wing. They only serve their corporate donors, and we've proved it 100 times in every instance when it comes to legislation, okay? But the key is corporate media. They're the ones that do the marketing for all the other corporate machines. And they go, oh my God, if they cannot charge anything they want to you and make you pay the gigantic price of drugs and subsidize it with your taxpayer money, that is extortion on poor Merck. Poor Merck, what are you doing to their First Amendment rights? So if you're a right winger, you should despise what Merck is doing and what all those greasy, awful politicians on the Republican and Democratic side do for 99.9% of drugs. Okay, so all of this is disgusting. And finally, that corporate media marketing was just chef's kiss, perfect on that clip that you found, Anna, because the guy says, we have to be thankful to pharma.
Right.
Because without, I mean, they did it out of the goodness of their heart. The $14.5 billion every single year in profit, and I said at least the last year, that level of profit, that was just a coincidence. That was just a sign. They don't care about that at all. They were doing it to help us. But now what have you done to Merck? CNBC is the biggest pile of trash I have ever seen in any form of media.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into some election-related developments, starting with Chris Christie. He is not holding back when it comes to going after Donald Trump, but is there something else afoot? We'll give you that story and more when we come back.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to member comments. Jenks Left Tricep of Fury says, this pharmaceutical dictates the law in America. The government has to obey. Yeah, we have a really unique form of government here in America where it is extreme corporate rule. So it's so extreme that often there are like no bid contracts like in Iraq where the vice president's former company, no one is allowed to compete with them. And it's literal, it's called no bid contract. The money had to go to Halliburton. Coincidentally, of course, Halliburton gave Dick Cheney $34 million right before he started that war and made those decisions to give the no bid contracts to Halliburton. But that's it. But I heard from corporate media that it was a wild coincidence. What a coinky dinky, they did it again. And here again with the pharmaceutical companies, they just simply own the government. They own it lock, stock, and barrel. But nary a national media reporter to figure this out. They're like, oh, pharmaceutical companies have a lot of power in Washington? Huh? Maybe that has to do with not negotiating drug prices? Huh? Okay, just please, everyone in media, just retire right away. Okay, just go get a useful job. Okay, you guys are besmirching the name of journalism, and it's really disgusting. Okay, I do declare, says Merck, how about the government stop using tax dollars to fund R&D and you do all the investment upfront to cut into your profits? So guys, look, this whole subsidizing makes no sense in two different ways. One, it shouldn't happen in the first place. But second, if it's gonna happen, what happens in private industry, again, I run this business, I know how to run a business. What happens in private industries, if you put in $140 million, you know what you get of the profits? A giant chunk. You get a huge chunk of the profits. Did we get any of the profits from Merck? Did we get half the profits from Merck? Did we get a quarter of the profits? Did we get 80% of the profits? We got none of the profits.
We got price gouged.
They're robbing us blind. And every corrupt, yes, including Democrats. Jesus Christ, with corporate media, like, no, some Republicans might be corrupt, but Democrats are angels. When pharmaceutical companies stuff money down their throats and into every one of their pockets, no, they just coincidentally, there was nothing they could do. They had to agree. There was nothing they can do. Yeah, there was nothing they could do. There was nothing they could do. Okay, I just invented that. Okay, so by the way, you talk about the angel Barack Obama, and you say, oh yeah, he did the same exact thing. Watch media heads explode. The objective, neutral journalists were like, how dare you say that about Barack Obama? And Nancy Pelosi, that's the king and queen of corporate politicians. How dare you? Okay. Shelby says the news may be terrible, but pesto chickpea grain bowl I'm eating currently, thanks to my Blue Apron gift card, is delicious.
That is actually a very good meal. I've had that too.
You see that? We're the one company that just gives you money. Yeah, maybe we're doing it wrong.
You could support by being a member.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, the name's Bogdo. That's a new handle that just joined. Hit the join button below the video on YouTube. You could do likewise. All of our members are the Young Turks. I love that you put on this show. Casper.
Well, Chris Christie is at it again.
But it sounds like you're trying to save the Republican Party.
Well, look, I believe the Republican Party has been losing now for nearly 7 years. After Donald Trump's win in 2016, which I was a large part of, we haven't been able to win anything since then.
Chris Christie, who has announced that he is running in the Republican primary for the presidential election in 2024, is essentially saying, look, we can't go with Trump because with Trump comes loss, and I'm tired of being a loser. Now, the main message that he is trying to get across, and I think that, Ron DeSantis very, very timidly tried to dip his toe in that area and then immediately got scared and scurried off. But Chris Christie is repeatedly saying, we're gonna keep losing if we keep sticking to Trump. Here's more from what he had to say.
After Donald Trump's win in 2016, which I was a large part of, we haven't been able to win anything since then. Lost the House in 2018, lost the Senate and the White House in 2020, those Georgia Senate seats in early 21, and we horribly underperformed in 2022. Lost governorships, lost the Senate seat, and barely won the House of Representatives when everyone thought we'd be at 240 or 250 seats.
Red wave.
So we're tired of losing, and look, if the person at the top gets all the credit when things go well, they also must be accountable for what happens when things go badly. And the fact is that Donald Trump, the candidates he picked in these individual states and endorsed, all lost, and it lost big races.
Now, in the context of that interview, Christie also kind of tried to dismantle any argument that there's a two-tier justice system that is going after Trump over classified documents, but refusing to go after Biden over his possession of classified documents. We're gonna get to that clip in just a moment, but before we do, Cenk, you have a theory as to why Chris Christie, who's really not registering with voters at all. I know it's early, but they don't really seem interested in him. You have a theory into why he's doing this, why he's like specifically branding himself as the attack dog against Trump.
Yeah, so look guys, I'm not saying Chris Christie can't win. In fact, I instantly put him in the top 3 because of this fighting attitude, which I'll get back to in a second. But what I'm seeing right now is interesting. You can see it for yourself. So Chris Christie is polling at somewhere between 0 and 2%. So de minimis, almost nothing, right? But yet, he's over all of media. So now I call both right-wing media and mainstream media combined corporate media, right? Because they're play good cop, bad cop with us, right? So all of a sudden, he's on CNN and Fox News and ABC and right-wing media, right? So all of corporate media has decided, we don't really care where he's polling, and we don't really care if he has any chance to win at all. We like the message this guy is putting out there. Why? Because they've decided they don't want Trump. And honestly, they're making it super clear. And so CNN does a town hall where all they do is they allow Trump to speak for a little over an hour, and everyone in media loses their mind. They're like, he shouldn't be allowed to speak, okay? And almost like the CNN staff's talking about quitting because they allowed someone that is not, that is now verboten by the establishment to speak on the airwaves. Meanwhile, Chris Christie is apparently allowed everywhere. And did you notice the softball Steve Doocy gave to him? Are you trying to save America?
No, save the Republican Party.
Oh, save the Republican Party, that's right.
Yeah.
And so what that means to me is, Rupert Murdoch has sent a giant memo with big bold letters saying, go get Trump, okay? We're done with that son of a bitch. Bring on Chris Christie and anyone else who'll take his head off.
So you put him in the top 3. You think there is some possibility that he could win the Republican primary. I put the probability at approximately 5%. And I'm gonna explain why.
I thought you were gonna go 0, okay.
No, I mean, I might, I'm tempted.
Don't do it. I think he's got a shot.
I'm tempted to go 0%. But I'm gonna keep my powder dry.
Okay, good, I like that. Good.
All right, but it's probably 0%. With that said, I wanna go to one other moment from that interview on Fox and Friends, and then I'm gonna show you, well, how Trump likes to throw his jabs. Let's watch.
I also see a huge double standard. You got classified documents all over Joe Biden's house, offices, lawyers' offices, garage. Do you believe that this should be, what Donald Trump has done from what you know is criminal?
Well, look, I don't know, Brian, exactly what they're going to find and what's going to come in any indictment that may come. But I will say this. The problem with all this is that it's self-inflicted. In the end, I don't know that the government even knew that Joe Biden had those documents or not. Right. But they did know Donald Trump did. And in fact, asked for them voluntarily for over a year and a quarter. Right. And got them back in dribs and drabs. And at least if you believe the accounts that you're reading right now, and I take them with a grain of salt because I did this work for 7 years and I know you can't believe anything until an indictment comes out. If in fact you're keeping those things knowingly, even after the government has asked for you to bring them back. The excuses about, oh, they were classified, declassified automatically when I left the office, well, that's just wrong.
So he's both very gently pouring cold water on the claim that Trump and Biden did the exact same thing, right? They committed the same crimes when it came to classified documents because it wasn't the same thing. Biden had no problem providing the documents after discovering them, in a place they weren't supposed to be in, whereas Trump was fighting it from the very beginning. He wanted to continue possessing both top secret and classified documents that he had no business taking home with him from the White House. So I thought that I actually thought he did a good job there in not, seeming too defensive on behalf of Biden while taking jabs at Trump.
Yeah, no, the reason why I put Chris Christie as having a real chance is because he's the one guy in the race that at this point appears to be fearless. And it's an absolute prerequisite. Otherwise, you've got no chance against Trump. Trump's gonna brutalize you, right? You gotta fight back, you gotta be able to punch back. DeSantis is so nervous.
He is,
right?
Yeah.
Like Trump punches him, and then DeSantis pokes at him a little bit, and then he's like, how did I do? And he's like he's just a hot, sweaty mess, right?
Yep.
And the rest of them are standard plastic Ken dolls from the corporate politics factory,
look
right?
Look at Cenk being generous by calling them Ken dolls.
Okay.
You're going too far, Cenk.
No, I mean, look at Mike Pence. I don't know,
I know, unfortunately I have, and I wouldn't say Ken doll.
Ken doll extraordinaire, but all of them, Tim Scott, all of them, Nikki Haley. So they're all like, hello, we are corporate Republicans. We love war. We love tax cuts for the rich. Donald Trump, oh no, I don't know what to do. Nikki Haley with the giant wide eyes. I don't know if I should criticize him. Oh, get it, just please leave, please leave.
So you're right about all of that, okay? But here's the thing. I don't know if Chris Christie's attacks on Trump will land, especially when you juxtapose how Christie throws his jabs with how Trump throws his jabs. So with that said, earlier this month on June 2nd, Trump went on Fox News and had a town hall with Sean Hannity, and here's how that went.
I hear Chris Christie's coming in. He was at 6% in New Jersey, which is, I love New Jersey, but 6% approval rating in New Jersey. What's the purpose? And he's polling at 0, and others are. I call him Ada Hutchinson. I don't call him Asa. I call him Ada Hutchinson. I gave him a little name for some reason, for certain reasons.
Okay, I included the Ada Hutchinson part specifically to make my point about how gross Trump is when he decides he wants to attack his opponents. So Asa Hutchinson, former governor of Arkansas, he's deeply, deeply conservative. I mean, former governor of Arkansas. The one thing he did was veto a bill that would have banned gender affirming care in the state, which is why Trump is attacking him by calling him Ada Hutchinson. He's disgusting. But my point is, while Chris Christie is out there, I think calling Trump a loser and really honing in on how much the party has lost as a result of the Trump brand in general elections is a smart move. But Trump is gonna get real dirty. And recently John and I talked about like the insane mocking of Christie's weight that Trump and all the Republican goons have been engaging in. They're gonna do a lot more of that. I don't know if Christie's counterpunches are gonna resonate with the voters. I don't know.
No, look, he's counterpunching 10 times harder than any other Republican.
That's true, Christie, right?
Yeah, Christie. Yeah. So Trump does over the top stuff, but at some point it might backfire, right? But only against the counterpuncher. If no one punches back, then he's gonna obliterate them, right? So in the case of Chris Christie, what did he do? He's like, oh no, I welcome Christie into the race when he first announced. He's like, he's gonna eat DeSantis's lunch like he ate Rubio's lunch. There was a lot of wink emoji in there.
Not too many winks, we all
right. And then if it wasn't clear enough, he put a picture of Chris Christie in front of a buffet.
Yep.
Okay, on Truth Social. So so that's the kind of dirty player he is, and generally people love that kind of entertainment, especially on the right wing, right? And so I get that. But again, Christie not just punching back, but punching back smartly, because talking about how Donald Trump's a loser is definitely the correct strategy. Because the only way to beat Donald Trump is not to tell Republicans he's too mean, he's too offensive. That is a 0% chance of working. No, what Christie's saying to them is, look, he's a schmuck, he's a loser. And all we've ever done is lose under him, which is actually totally true. They've lost bigly under Trump. And if you keep pounding away at that ferociously and you have the entire corporate media on your side, okay, well then you've got a fighter's chance. And guys, now remember don't mistake me for saying I like Chris Christie. Chris Christie is a classic corporate Republican goon. I got no interest in him, and corporate media is deeply biased. So I never saw the 6% poll, but I did see a poll in New Jersey where Chris Christie left office at a 14% approval rating. So
do you think Bridgegate had something to do with that?
Of course, because he's deeply corrupt.
Right.
Okay. So now there's he did tons of things wrong in New Jersey, et cetera. But look at the juxtaposition. Marianne Williamson is ranging between 5% to 11% against Joe Biden. No media, almost no corporate media appearances. Chris Christie's polling at 0%, and his last poll when he was governor was at 14%. Credibility, he has no credibility.
But I mean, this is what manufacturing consent looks like. Marianne Williamson doesn't get booked on every single possible television news show because she will not serve the purposes of what, honestly, corporate America wants. Corporate America wants stability, and they want someone that they're familiar with, someone who is going to do their bidding, and Joe Biden is just that, right? In fact, Joe Biden, it's become very clear. I mean, his campaign has decided to hire Tom Perez as one of its top advisors. It's very clear to me that Biden is now making the pivot back to his roots, right? There was some decent attempts at progressive policy, but he's now completely pivoting over to what we've been familiar with when it comes to Biden. Let's just put it that way. The bankruptcy bill Biden that we're familiar with. So any final words on this?
Yeah, just look, Biden, when he got rid of Ron Klain and hired a corporate goon as his chief of staff, decided very actively, and everyone acknowledges, to go back to being a right winger. And he thinks the brilliant strategy is, I'm gonna outright wing the Republicans, which is, look, I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but that's a moronic strategy. It's never worked, it's never gonna work, and that's why he's doing miserable in the polling. But the corporate media loves Biden and they love Chris Christie because they're gonna get the same results either way.
Yeah.
They're gonna get, the donors are gonna win on everything. And that's why even though Marianne Williamson is polling infinitely better than Chris Christie, you won't see her on TV, and you'll see that guy 100 times over.
Why don't we move on to another Republican presidential candidate, and that's Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence.
The Justice Department recently informed Donald Trump's legal team that he is a target of a federal investigation into possibly mishandling classified documents. What's your reaction to the news about your former boss?
Look, I don't know the facts of the president's case. I don't know the facts of the former president's case. But what we've got to have in this country is equal treatment under the law.
Equal treatment under the law. It seems like Mike Pence believes that, we shouldn't treat Trump as if he's above the law. We shouldn't treat anyone who is elite or powerful as if they're above the law, right? Except, no, that is not what he's saying. He's trying to make a point that there's somehow a double standard in our justice system when it comes to prosecuting Trump after he took classified and top secret documents home with him, and prosecuting Biden when he inadvertently did so and immediately turned over the classified documents as soon as they were discovered. So let's hear more of what he had to say.
When I informed the Department of Justice that we had classified materials potentially in our home, they were at my home. The FBI was on my front doorstep the next day.
But isn't
what we found out was that when Joe Biden apparently alerted the Department of Justice, 80 days later,
but sir,
they showed up at his office. That's not equal treatment under the law, and we've got to end.
I understand you're talking about equal treatment.
So in other words, this is yet another opportunity for Mike Pence to, remember that he's running against Trump, and so he doesn't have to provide cover for Trump the way he did when he was serving as vice president in Trump's administration. Instead, he gets scared. He runs away from trying to, answer the question. And you can tell he's nervous. You could tell he's freaking out about this conversation because he doesn't want to take any jabs at Trump, just by the way he breathes heavily. If you don't know what I mean, take a look at the next clip.
But the question is, allegation that an investigation into obstruction, which you clearly did not do, if that is something that investigators see as possible, and even enough potentially to indict the former president, do you think that that should go forward?
Well, I would hope not.
I would hope not. That's what I do sometimes when you go on a rant that I disagree with. I'm like on the side. Anyway, we're gonna get to his elaboration on why he would hope not in just a moment. But Cenk, what are your thoughts?
I know he's a Christian, but maybe he's doing some sort of breathing exercises there, some sort of meditation or something. Like, they were talking about Trump again. I remember when that guy tried to execute me. Okay, but I can't insult him too much because the base loves him.
Stop making that face.
I mean, I thought the first one was funnier though, when he was like,
yeah, he struggles. He struggles. You can tell he's nervous. He can't find the words. He's like hyperventilating a little bit.
Dude, you ain't gonna win. You ain't gonna win. Go home. Go home to mother. Go home to mother, please. I'm begging you. The dude tried to get you killed, and you're still like, well, I think he's, I think it could be above the law. It should be above the law. I mean, we should have equal protection law, except for Trump. Trump, when he tries to murder people like me, he should be above the law.
Okay. All right, since we're just making fun of him, why don't we go to the next video where he explains why he does not want Trump to be indicted, even though there's a lot of evidence indicating that he willingly, knowingly took classified documents with him to Mar-a-Lago. Let's watch.
I think it would be terribly divisive to the country. I mean, at a time when the American people are hurting, I mean to tell you, families are struggling right now with record inflation. We have a crisis at our border, the likes of which we've never seen. We have a flood of fentanyl coming into every city, large and small, in this country that's killing young people every day. We have threats abroad, a crime wave in our cities. I think now more than ever, we ought to be finding ways we could actually come together.
Sir, we're going to get
and
to
this kind of action by the Department of Justice, I think, would only fuel further division in the country. And let me also say, I think it would also send a terrible message to the wider world. I mean, we're the emblem of democracy. We're the symbol of justice in the world.
Right, so it would somehow send a bad message to the world if the United States, for once, didn't have a two-tier justice system and ensure that everyone who breaks the law gets treated equally, right? The former president of the United States, it appears, broke the law in a very serious way, taking home with him top secret documents that can only be reviewed in secure government facilities. He took that home with him and then lied about how he classified those documents, which was a joke. But no, I mean, it sends a good message to the world if we just do not do anything about that and allow the president to get away with the crimes.
But it's so much worse than that because it was him. They were trying to kill him. It's not even theoretical, right? Like if they were chanting "Hang Cenk Uygur," right? I wouldn't. And the guy said to his chief of staff, Donald Trump said to his chief of staff, that he didn't mind it. He didn't mind it. If somebody said that about people trying to kill me, I wouldn't be I was gonna use a very harsh word, but let's say I wouldn't be Ken doll Mike Pence going. You
wouldn't be providing cover for Trump.
Yeah, I'd be
right now
kicking the living crap out of him. I'd be talking about how you got to put this son of a bitch in prison. He tried to get me killed. This is the weakest man in America. Please go home to mother. When I was watching the NBA championship the other day, the same day that this town hall is happening, so I flipped to the town hall because I'm a political guy to see how he's doing. And I was on there for about 13 seconds, and I nearly fell asleep in that 13 seconds. I was like, oh my God.
Well,
okay,
yeah, I mean, you were getting some good instruction on breathing exercises, and sometimes it can help you sleep.
God,
yeah,
he's so dull. He's so fake. I think maybe there's a leak in the machine, like in the back or something, and that's why he's like has to refill the engines, like from whichever factory they built him in. So this is deeply, deeply embarrassing, and the faux squint too, like, well, Dana. Like that faux squid, I can't stand it. Everything about this guy, 0% chance of winning, go home.
Now, with that said, obviously we see quite a bit of cowardice in the context of a town hall. However, interestingly enough, a pro-Pence PAC known as Committed to America put out a pretty harsh ad that really did attack Trump aggressively. So let's take a look at that.
A president begging him to ignore the Constitution. A mob shouting for him to die. And an anxious nation watching for one man to do what's right. A weak man appeases a mob. A man of courage and character stands up to them. That day, one man failed the test of leadership, while another stood tall. And since then, this so-called leader has continued to abandon our conservative principles. Now, with a woke mob trying to take away our freedom, we need a president who won't flinch.
True, we need a president who won't flinch. I mean, if this was the strategy that the Pence campaign wanted to go with, you got to do the follow through, right? You can't just put out the ads, and that was a good ad.
Yeah.
But you can't just put out the ads and then like you freak out once you're doing debates in town halls and you're getting questions about Trump. You have to follow through, but it doesn't seem like he's willing to do it. Doesn't seem like he's capable of doing it.
Cue up the first video that we showed again, but let me say this first. Look, it's a good ad, and then it calls Trump weak, it's aggressive. It's not a great political strategy in the Republican side, if I have to say it, and I do. Our job is to be honest with you guys, to attack the rioters, because the Republicans love the rioters. So when he says he stood up to the mob, he's gonna lose like 65% of Republican voters instantly. They love that mob. So it's a very poor strategy.
Point. I didn't think about that, you're right.
So in that sense, but I like the strength of the ad shows, but I guarantee you the minute that you ask Mike Pence about it, a super PAC, your super PAC basically, called Trump weak. What do you think about that? He's gonna go, and he's gonna backpedal. He's gonna backpedal, right? So then what's the point? You're just hiding behind your PAC. And so look at the first video again. Look at how much he hems and haws and how weak he is. So ironic, watch.
The Justice Department recently informed Donald Trump's legal team that he is a target of a federal investigation into possibly mishandling classified documents. What's your reaction to the news about your former boss?
Look, I don't know the facts of the president's case. I don't know the facts of the former president's case. But what we've got to have in this country is equal treatment under the law.
there's almost
Please
even
clap.
a little
Please
bit
clap.
of a whimper there.
Yeah, there was a whimper.
There was a little whimper. Yeah, it's not good.
My super PAC says Donald Trump's weak. What do I think of Donald Trump? Ain't gonna cut it, brother. And definitely not in a Republican primary.
Well, we've got Fash Flood Watch when we return.
All right, back. Let's go to YouTube Super Chat. I got a critique first. Carl Cranny writes in, lots of people like TYT that do lots of bagging but offer no solutions. Love to hear some solutions. First of all, Mr. Cranny Apple, we offer nothing but solutions here, okay? We're like the king of solutions. So we talk, kidding aside, we'll often say in a show, in stories, hey, look, there's critique, but then we don't want to be destructive, we want to be constructive. So just stay, if you're new, stick around. Like when we criticize Biden and we say, here's what's wrong with his strategy, we will offer, in fact, I think we're like the only show that ever does it. No one else bothers to offer a strategy. We'll say, no, this is the strategy he should do instead. And I could say the same with Republicans. In fact, I just did. I think that the Chris Christie strategy is way better than the Mike Pence strategy, and I offer those solutions all the time. But kidding aside, thank you for contributing on Super Chat, and nothing wrong with an inquisitive mind and challenging the host. We love that, all right? Athletes LLC says, George and Wheezy, Sonny and Cher, Lucy and Ricky, just listing top duos that compare to People's Champ, Cenk and Anna. Wow, thank you, brother. That's a hell of a company to be in. Comedy amongst facts. You all are too funny. TYT coming early with the heat. Buckle up, folks. Listen, learn, vote. I love it. Thank you again for the support. Thomas Daniel writes in, watching TYT while donating plasma, they say laughter is the best medicine, but due to declining healthcare system, it'll be the only medicine that's affordable. Thomas, that is sad but true, and way to hang in there, brother. We appreciate you, okay? Let's go to YouTube members. Crowded Crow says, this is my favorite version of Cenk. He's genuinely funny. Hey, look, I didn't say it, the people are saying it. It's on the streets. Anyway, the more absurd the impersonations, the better. Effing beautiful. I appreciate you saying that because some people don't like it, right? And they say, oh, Cenk, you have really good points to make, but when you do the antics, it bothers me and it makes it less intellectual or something. Sad day. Sorry, I love you guys. Try to bear through it if you're the kind that don't like it, but I like it too much. No. I have fun with the news, I do. It's the genuine me.
Like, let's keep it real, a well-known characteristic of intellectuals, and this is the only characteristic they can have. It's being monotone and dry when they deliver.
I'm sorry, that's true. I meant to say I'm really smart.
Animated people can't be smart, apparently.
No, animated people are not smart. Only people who talk like this are smart, especially if they're on NPR. Okay, sorry. Okay, Freed Express 08 says, Cenk has the energy we need from a president. I didn't say it. People are saying USA. LOL. Okay, all right, here we go. Schultz C41 says, is it then not also a coercion of the company to set the price whatever they want without any say on our part on what the price should be? No, of course, Schultz C41, that is the coercion. But CNBC and corporate media turned the coercion on its head and say, poor Merck. It's absurd. Modern Relic says, make these companies pay back what we spent on R&D. At a minimum, brother, we should be getting a giant chunk of their profits. All right, I'm out of time. We'll be back. right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. And I don't make these handles, I just read them, okay? Burgundy will read anything in the prompter. Chicken Stroka, the chain smoker, gifted a Young Turks membership. So we appreciate it. Athletes LLC gifted 20 Young Turks memberships. Still reigning champ. Thank you guys. Casper.
Well, we haven't really been giving you all updates on the classified documents investigation into Trump, but we do have some pretty big updates right now, so let's get into it. Former President Donald Trump has now officially been informed that he is currently the main target of a criminal investigation into alleged mishandling of classified documents. And there are some signs indicating that he could be indicted in this case very soon. Now, Trump's lawyers have been sent a target letter on the matter, and that target letter makes it abundantly clear that Trump is in fact the heart of this criminal investigation. I don't really understand why this is such big news. Obviously, he's the heart of a criminal investigation having to do with classified documents. He's the one who took them home.
Oh my God. Yes. It turns out Trump's the target?
Yeah.
I don't understand cable news, man. They're like, breaking news. The guy who took home the documents is the guy who might have taken them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works.
I know, Cenk, but prosecutors sent a letter, a target letter to his lawyers.
But to be fair to them, I will say this one thing on their behalf. Like, we cater to the powerful so much in this country. The idea that anyone who had power could be indicted is shocking to the rest of the powerful. They're like, they didn't think it was possible.
I did think it was gonna be the milk boy, I really did. But now we're all shocked to find that it's actually Trump himself. Now, The Guardian's Hugo Lowell broke the story and spoke to Ari Melber on MSNBC about it. So you're about to hear some more details about this. Let's take a look.
Trump's lawyers were told last week by letter from the Justice Department that the special counsel's office considered Trump a target in the Mar-a-Lago documents investigation. Part of the reason why we're so confident in the designation being applied to Trump is because, from what we understand, several of Trump's top lawyers and senior advisors had a long conversation this afternoon about how to manage the fallout of this letter. And they were trying to minimize how many reporters were going to do a story on it. And Trump himself was really not keen for this to be reported out. And I think when we learned that, we were pretty confident that Trump has been designated a target.
Guys, this isn't a story.
Okay, that's not the story. We do have a story here.
We have other elements and other updates to this investigation, which we'll get to. But like, it is amazing how cable news can take something that is not a story and turn it into one.
I actually thought it was Professor Plum in the library with the lead pipe, but it turns out it might be Trump after all. But there are relevant portions here.
There are relevant portions. Okay, so a breaking news story today has to do with a former White House official, a career, a career person within politics, right? Not necessarily an elected person. I say this because the individual has not come out by sharing their identity, but they have been interviewed by investigators, both by the prosecution in this case and also by the individuals who want to investigate Biden and his possession of classified documents. But with that said, we're learning interesting information because this is the person who was tasked with briefing both the Obama administration and the Trump administration on how the declassification process works. And the reason why this individual's testimony is so important is because the main defense from Donald Trump and his team of lawyers is that he had the ability to just think about declassifying those documents and boop, that's how it works. More on that in the next video. Let's take a look.
This official who served in both, correct me if I'm wrong about anything, of Trump and the Biden administrations, a careerist familiar with the classification process, has spoken to federal prosecutors about what Donald Trump knew, what Donald Trump was told while he was in the White House about the process. He understood the rules, number one. Plus, spoke Don McGahn, the former White House counsel, John Kelly, the former White House chief of staff, John Eisenberg, the former National Security Council lawyer, big players, smart people, close people to Donald Trump inside the White House. They all knew the process and they talked to Trump about it as well. So what Trump says publicly contradicts what you have learned here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's mounting evidence that is not going to bode well for Trump. And as a result, there's a lot of speculation that very soon he will be indicted in this case. According to the independent, prosecutors are ready to ask grand jurors to approve an indictment against Trump for violating a portion of the US criminal code known as Section 793, which prohibits gathering, transmitting, or losing any information respecting the national defense. The use of Section 793, which does not make reference to classified information, is understood to be a strategic decision by prosecutors that has been made to short circuit Trump's ability to claim that he used his authority as president to declassify documents he removed from the White House and kept at his Palm Beach, Florida property long after his term expired on January 20th of 2021. Cenk.
Okay, so look, every part of this conversation is absurd. We now have to debate things that are just preposterous because the right wing wants to debate them. Like, we think that he could declassify the documents just by looking at them or touching them or thinking about them. These are all things that Trump has actually said. And MAGA then goes, of course, you just laser eye the documents. You can even, sometimes you can just, you smell the documents and they're declassified.
That's my favorite method.
Right, and like there's nothing too absurd for MAGA to believe it. Nothing too absurd. Like Donald Trump could say, well, look, the documents are obviously classified. You normally go through a very detailed process, and that's the law. But there is an exception. If you take them and you rub them on your underarm, declassified. And MAGA will be like, that's definitely right. Oh, you guys are so biased against Trump. You know that if you do this, it's always declassified. You know that. You know, Biden did that once. Okay, like it's absurd. Of course he took them home. They said to him, bring them back. We know you have them. He actively hid them. They have guys on tape moving the boxes.
Yep.
And then the lawyer then goes into the place where they move the boxes and only finds a certain amount. Then the government says, no, we know you have top secret documents. Give them back. He's like, no, I don't. No, I don't. Then they go into Mar-a-Lago and they find all the top secret documents.
Yep.
It's an open and shut case. There's no question about it. There's only two reasons why we're debating it. One is the right wing will believe anything and will debate anything. And two is that the people in power are kind of skittish about it because they've never prosecuted anyone in power. And they're worried that it might come back on them at some point. So they're like, we really gotta get this guy. But on the other hand, what if we were held accountable? That's the only reason why we're having these nonsense conversations.
What if
this guy should have been arrested a long time ago?
Yeah, like what if, potential insider trading among members of Congress were actually investigated by an independent third party?
Oh, there's no way that any Republican or Democrat's gonna agree to that because they're all corrupt. Okay, now look guys, there are two parts of this that are interesting in terms of there's two layers, right? The first layer is, did he break the law by taking the top secret documents and not returning them and obstructing justice? That's an open and shut case. Now, my question is, did he actually try to do something more nefarious with the documents? Like maybe share them with Saudi Arabia, who's been funneling him and his family millions, if not billions of dollars right after he left office with the private equity deal and with the Live Golf deal, etc. But so far, I haven't seen anything leaked from the prosecutors that leads in that direction. So I'm actually a little disappointed. I haven't seen any hint of evidence in that direction. And you need evidence. You can't assume that one. There's no way. That one's not at all obvious, okay? And then finally, the other giant thing is Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows now apparently testifying against Trump as his former chief of staff. And there's some reports, unconfirmed, that he is going to plead guilty, and that would be shocking. If he did that, that means he's in a lot of trouble, and he's giving them tons of material on Trump, who's then in a lot of trouble. But we don't know that fully yet.
So one other thing that I wanted to mention, which would explain what we slugged this story, flash flood, is a flooding incident that is strange. And I just want to note that there's nothing proven by this, right? But it is strange. So it turns out that an employee at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence drained the resort's swimming pool last October and ended up flooding a room where computer servers containing surveillance video logs were kept. Now those are the video logs that investigators want to review in this case, and you're about to learn more about this convenient flooding and how it might actually backfire in the next clip.
In late October, the Justice Department sent another request to the Trump Organization asking them to preserve surveillance footage. That is that same month that we are told that this pool at Mar-a-Lago was drained. So there are a lot of questions, of course, about how this is factoring into Jack Smith's investigation, whether or not they believe this was intentional or if it was simply a mistake. But another notable detail that our team has uncovered here, Wolf, that maintenance worker in this case has had his phone seized. He has also spoken to investigators. So clearly this is something that they are certainly pursuing and certainly asking witnesses about.
So look, it's good that they're looking into that. I mean, it could just be a very strange coincidence. It could be a strategy to essentially, tamper with evidence. I don't know, no one knows, but according to the report you just heard from, the prosecutors are looking into that.
Yeah, so my thought on that is when I first saw cable news reporting that there was inappropriate flooding at Trump's Mar-a-Lago, I was like, come on guys, you're taking it too far, right? But it turns out it's not flooding, they drained it on purpose. And it turns out it just got directed to the one room with the surveillance video.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Right after the authorities asked for the surveillance video, which then makes it 10,000 times more fishy. But having said that, that's exactly the type of thing that is not obvious, right? Meaning that we don't have enough evidence publicly now to say that that's definitely true. That's what you go to court for. And if you've got the evidence showing that, then I think it's pretty damning. It's among many things that are damning, but they gotta show that one in court.
All right, we have to wrap the first hour, but stick around, there's more fun to come. In the second hour, we'll talk about a longtime friend of the show, a libertarian named Peter Morici, and his latest op-ed saying, you know what, you might have to start working younger and you might have to keep working until you're older, much older, and it's a good thing. We've got that story and more coming up, don't miss it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone
is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that Black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger Black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was the white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
We've been around for about 20 years and we have about 20 billion views. Am I proud of that? Hell yeah, I am. We put out 20 billion messages in a bottle. Have we helped to move now 2 generations, millennials and Gen Z, to become progressive? Yes, those numbers are real. We moved generations. Were we the only ones? Of course not. But we have been the largest online news show for now decades. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. And also Timothy Pulliam gifted 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube. You're awesome. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate it. Everybody, you could become a member at tyt.com/join. You could also become a member by hitting the join button below on YouTube if you're watching there. You could also upgrade through that button too. Casper.
Listen, something just broke that I have to share with you all, and get a load of this, Cenk. So apparently Adam Schiff, Representative Adam Schiff, who's running for Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat in California, has decided to hire Liz Smith for his campaign. If you're unfamiliar with Liz Smith, she is the very woman who was working for former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and decided to smear the women who had been accusing him of sexual harassment. So like all of these bad actors, they never get ejected from the party. They do what police departments do, right? You got a bad actor, he gets in trouble, it's okay, he'll get hired by a different police department, maybe even in the same state. In this case, bad actor gets rehired by the Democratic Party in the same party.
Yeah, and so look, we talk about establishment Democrats versus progressives. In that race, there are 2 progressives, Katie Porter and Barbara Lee, perfectly good options. They believe in the Democratic agenda more than Adam Schiff does, at least what President Biden was pretending was his agenda. Katie Porter loves it, Barbara Lee loves it, and they fight for it more than Biden does or Schiff does. And Schiff is beloved by establishment media and establishment Democrats, and what does he do? We tell you that he's not an actual progressive, he's not actually on the left, and he proves it. It's gratuitous to hire Liz Smith, gratuitous.
I have a deeper point to make about the mainstream Democratic Party, okay? Since they've been completely captured by corporations. Their donors are very similar to the donors that fund Republican campaigns. Let's just keep it 100. So what they do is they shift most of their talking points, most of their campaigning on social issues, on culture war issues. And all these different groups of people that they pretend to care about and pretend to want to protect. In this case, we're talking about women, right? Oh, they're nothing more than pawns. They're nothing more than pawns that get used and abused in their political campaigning. But when push comes to shove, when it comes to substance, no problem hiring Liz Smith, who smeared people who were victimized by Andrew Cuomo, women who were victimized by Andrew Cuomo with sexual assault in some cases and sexual harassment.
All right, one more layer to this story because it proves Anna's point perfectly. So in this race, Governor Gavin Newsom said they're running to replace Dianne Feinstein. And Newsom said if Feinstein ever retires that he was gonna put a black woman in charge. Why? Identity politics, right? He doesn't want to do anything that's progressive economically because that could cost his donors money. So he does theatrics, okay? And it's he thought harmless theatrics because we all know Feinstein isn't going to resign. So I'll pretend that I'm going to put a black woman in charge. Now the problem was Feinstein has dementia, and people caught on. He thought the media would cover for her for the entire time, and they had. For years and years, they all pretended she didn't have dementia when it was super obvious that she did. So now they got caught, and then we found out on top of that Nancy Pelosi's daughter is running Feinstein's office. So now the problem is Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom, who talk a big game about identity politics, women and women are the best, and we care about African Americans and all this stuff. They're like, well, but we like Adam Schiff. We prefer Adam Schiff because Adam Schiff is a corporate goon, just like Pelosi and Newsom. He takes the same exact donor money. He does exactly what the donors want, just like they do. So now, Feinstein, I mean, does she have dementia? We'd have to put in Barbara Lee. And that would give Barbara Lee, a progressive, a huge advantage. Oh, no. Now Adam Smith's hired Liz Smith. You're still gonna pretend that he's the one that's in favor of women when he's running against 2 women? And he hires Liz Smith? And the other one's an African-American woman, the one you said you'd put in charge? Do you see, we're not just saying it because we don't like them. That's absurd.
I mean, I definitely don't like them.
Okay, but the reason we don't like them is because of the facts. These are all facts and they're indisputable.
Yep.
And so just know who these corporate Democrats actually are, because certainly corporate media isn't going to tell you. They're on the same team.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about this incredible op-ed written by Peter Morici in MarketWatch. But before we do, you're going to enjoy this.
Well, now we're getting someplace. The seminar is making progress. What we're seeing here is that we
I love your condescension. It's hilarious. Go ahead, finish up.
That's a video dating back to 2011 when Cenk was hosting an MSNBC show and happened to interview Peter Morici, a libertarian economist. And lucky for us, Morici just penned an op-ed for MarketWatch that basically tried to make a point that we're gonna need to work harder, we're gonna need to work longer to sustain the economy, and that's a great thing. Don't believe me? Well, before we get to more fun clips featuring Cenk debating him, let's get to the op-ed itself. The headline is, Americans may have to start working younger and retire older. That might be a good thing.
Ugh.
So
already a disaster.
So he said that might be a good thing, Cenk. Anyway.
Oh yeah, of course, for corporate America.
Exactly. Yeah. So he says, going forward, China will suffer from fewer workers, fiscal challenges to support more seniors, and also higher capital costs as resources are diverted. And as a result, he writes, China for years has been moving up the technology ladder with strengths in green energy, computer chip making, and now a world-class electric vehicle industry. Such higher value activities mean that China's economy can still grow with fewer workers. So that's mild, right? But he's setting something up. He continues to write, Western governments will be further challenged to finance investments to mitigate climate change, infrastructure, investments in R&D and defense without imposing declining living standards on the working age population through taxes or inflation. Textbook policy remedies, from subsidies to support more children to government financed and industry mandated childcare, haven't worked.
Made it up.
Wait, no. Not only did he make it up, what childcare? Like what childcare? What are you talking about?
Well, the only thing that I thought the same exact thing when I read that, and I was like, wait, where's your facts for that, Mr. Professor, right? You just asserted it with no facts to back you up whatsoever. And I was like, the only thing I could think of that he's talking about is maybe the child tax credit that they did in the first COVID relief bill under Biden. But hold on.
1 year. No. I'm so sick of people bringing that up as if it was like a long-lasting progressive policy that Biden accomplished and we should all give him a round of applause. It was 1 year. 1 year.
I know, but the reason people bring it up and try to give him credit is because it was a stunning success.
No, it was a success,
right?
But it expired.
But my point is that Morici's saying, no, they definitely don't work. What do you mean? The 1 year we did it, everybody loved it. And it helped the economy. There's now lower unemployment than there's ever been. So what's your evidence that government programs to help people with childcare don't work? You just made it up.
So he also discussed how critical technological advancements and modern financial markets have been spurring productivity and economic growth. But now that slowing population growth poses a threat to wealth, Peter thinks the answer is to start workers young, even younger, and never let them stop. So here's what he writes. To raise the half of humanity living in poverty with the requisite goods and energy, avert or mitigate flooding coastal cities and severe weather, and sustain living standards in developed economies, two things appear clear. People will have to work longer, and a smaller population consuming fewer resources will be a welcome development. Okay, I'm gonna read that again. I want you to really absorb what he's arguing here, okay? Two things appear clear. People will have to work longer, and a smaller population consuming fewer resources will be a welcome development.
Yeah, so look.
You're gonna have to work longer for less. That is what he's saying there, right?
Yeah, well, he's definitely saying you gotta work longer. Back to the mines. 67 is too young to retire. That's literally his claim. And look, if you notice, he keeps going back to climate change and clean energy. He does it throughout the entire article, like as if he cares. Like if you put together a climate change proposal, I would be shocked if he wasn't massively opposed to it. So he's trying to this is such an amateur way, but it's like from the old school from the 1990s. Well, actually through the 2010s too, when I debated him, where he'd be like, oh, I am doing this for the youngs, for the youths. Oh, I hear they care about climate change. And if you care about climate change, you're gonna wanna work till 80. Wait, what? Okay, total turn there. No, one thing has nothing to do with the other, and I don't believe you care about climate change at all.
So then he goes on to say, these annoying progressives, they keep bringing up this issue about how not everyone has a similar job. Some people, they're pushing paper, they're sitting at desks, they're comfortable, it's cushy, there's not a whole lot of hard labor. There are other people who do difficult manual labor, right? Construction jobs, that always comes to mind. And so how are you gonna ask construction workers to work even longer? I mean, it really does take a toll on the body. Let's go to graphic 6 here. He doesn't offer any solutions, let's just be clear. He doesn't offer any solutions, but he does juxtapose American culture to Japanese culture by writing, the Japanese already have faced the problems of an aging population and declining workforce. Japan has sustained per capita incomes by accepting immigrants from poorer nations, which I have no problem with, I think that's actually a good thing, working smarter, redesigning physical tasks so that older workers can do them.
Oh my God.
And flexing their superior acumen with robotics.
So, I mean, he's literally arguing we should do like Japan, make it easier for older people to work.
For elderly people, yep.
Right, and drive them back into the offices because the corporate machines
or work sites
need more fodder, okay? So remember, we've been showing you on the show, Sarah Huckabee Sanders did it in Arkansas, and many other Republicans are now saying lower the age of child labor in America, so we drive the kids back into the factories, right? And now they're saying also raise the age so you have to work into the 70s. Now we're not gonna pay you well. No, that's not the answer, okay? We're always gonna make it so that you could barely subsist, right?
And that's a good thing.
And all the way into your 70s and 80s, and that's such a good thing like Japan did. We're just gonna bring in the robots, and they're gonna re-engineer your work so that you could still kind of do it when you're like 90.
But what about mental decline? Because that's something else that people unfortunately experience as they get older. And here's what he has to say about that. Until now, treatments have focused on removing plaque from the brain after dementia begins, but medical researchers are closing in on the equivalent of statins, which often avert heart disease before it can develop for the brain. We could take these medications in our 50s to keep us working at near top level well into our 70s. He writes this with a straight face. By the way, this is his solution to elderly people experiencing mental decline who might have to still work because our economy is so disgustingly rigged. He responds to that with healthcare. Drugs, you gotta take drugs. In a country where our healthcare system is broken, it's broken. It is astronomically expensive to get the healthcare that Americans need, especially as they get older. But he's like, just take some statins, you know?
To be fair,
take some statins.
To be fair to my old friend, Professor Marici, there is someone still working with dementia in their 80s. That's Senator Dianne Feinstein.
She should have taken some statins.
Well, he don't really care as long as she votes for the corporate agenda, which she does. She does. But guys, this is a twofer, and that's why this is particularly this episode. One, you're never gonna get a break. The corporate machines need you to work, they will literally work you to death, okay? But two, that also means we're not gonna give you Social Security, okay? Because we already spent it in the tax cuts for the rich, for the defense contractors, all the subsidies we gave to the oil companies.
There will be a civil war.
It's gone, it's gone.
No,
and so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take your Social Security and make you work late into your 70s. And we care about solving dementia, not for you, but so that
for your boss.
We'll have more widgets, more of you widgets to plug into our corporate machines.
That's exactly right. So I'm gonna give you more excerpts, but I'm ready for some video. So let's go to, well, let me set this up. So if you didn't already think that this guy was awful, I remember booking him on the show a lot back in the day when I was a guest booker. These are like early years of TYT. He has gotten into many debates with Cenk for obvious reasons. So let's go back to his debate with Cenk, specifically on MSNBC, which was about the about a poll showing just how progressive Americans are on these economic issues. So Cenk, in the context of that interview, showed this poll, or showed this on the screen. Let me show you what it says. What America wants. So according to that poll, it showed that 55% of the respondents were in favor of.
No, they
said it was totally unacceptable. 55% said that it was totally unacceptable to cut unemployment benefits. 56% said it was totally unacceptable to cut Head Start. 59% said it was unacceptable to cut student loans. So you can see it. List goes on and on. 77% were against cutting Social Security. All of this makes sense. Obviously, that's from 2011. The results haven't changed much. Most Americans want economic prosperity. Cutting these programs is the antithesis of that. So that is what they were debating about. Let's watch more of the video.
You know, I look at that poll and I think, God, can it get any clearer? Am I missing something? It looks like the American people are pretty darn liberal based on those numbers.
I think you're missing a lot. Americans tend to be more moderate than leaders of either party will acknowledge, or than either Fox or MSNBC will embrace.
Professor, I'm going to challenge you with facts. The facts I just gave. A great majority of us want to raise taxes on people making over $100,000 because we're in a real budget mess. Why don't we do it?
Well, now we're getting someplace. The seminar is making progress. What we're seeing here is that we.
I love your condescension. It's hilarious. Go ahead, finish up.
I'm trying to bring you along now. What we're seeing
here
is
the numbers.
That
you haven't showed anything yet. Go ahead.
No, I've shown quite a bit. You just don't want to acknowledge it.
Economist Peter Morici, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Even though you've been completely and utterly wrong, and you have not supported the facts
That's what makes America.
Okay, but my favorite part of that interaction, Cenk, was when he tried to do a gotcha on you and didn't do his homework and really fully understand who he was talking to. So let's just watch that quick moment and then you can comment.
The Republicans spent millions upon millions of dollars that they raised from incredibly rich people so that they could do ads pretending to be on the side of the American people. What did they campaign on? We showed it earlier in the show. They said, oh, we're gonna create jobs. They come in, they don't create jobs at all. They trick the American people. You know that in elections, it turns out commercials make a difference. They do
That's why
political
Barack
spending.
Obama can raise so much money on Wall Street.
I agree.
Well, I mean, Wall
He's
Street
too
supports
conservative.
Democrats for a reason. They get their way. I mean, the Democratic Party is the party of Wall Street.
Okay. Look, I actually agree with that, but then you're agreeing with me that they're too conservative. All right, Professor, we gotta go.
Take care.
No, but he's saying they're the party of Wall Street. That means they're too conservative. He's like, oh, that's ridiculous.
I know.
But you just said it, okay? So, all right, my favorite part of all that was two things that happened behind the scenes. And this is interesting. Well, actually, one was public and the other one was behind the scenes.
Ooh.
So Mediaite writes an article about that all the way back in 2011. So that's a dozen years ago, okay? And I don't know if the writer is right-wing or just an establishment person. And remember, a dozen years ago, the progressives were not anywhere near as strong as they are now. And almost everyone in media was like super establishment,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And so they like lit into me saying like, this was uncivil.
No.
How dare he, right? And the last line was sarcastically civil with an exclamation point. Like, they're so funny. They think that if you bring on these guests that are lying, The right thing to do, the civil thing to do is just let them lie.
Yeah, no, totally,
right?
Absolutely.
And so now when they say like Caitlin Collins didn't challenge Trump enough, that's why it's hilarious. Because no, in cable news, the etiquette for decade after decade was don't challenge any of the guests. And everybody's supposed to have like an orgy of agreement. So now the behind the scenes thing. When that guest came on, our producers booked him thinking that he agreed with me. And it turns out he didn't. And we had what I thought was a super fun and interesting exchange, right? My executive producer comes out after the show and lights into the booker. And he's like, and Cenk, don't worry, we'll never have him on again. I'm like, why?
Oh my God, come on.
Why? That was an interesting discussion.
No, that's
I
not
like
allowed.
having him on.
Not allowed.
Right.
No interesting discussions.
Isn't that interesting? So that's at MSNBC. No, everyone has to agree, just like at Fox News.
That's incredible. That is incredible. All right, well, check out our YouTube library of videos to watch other exchanges that Cenk had with Peter Morici, because I did book him a lot. And look, to Morici's credit, he was down to debate. You know, he would come on the show knowing full well what your stance was, knowing that he was walking into a debate.
That's why I didn't mind him at all.
Yeah.
And an exchange of ideas, especially when you're right, helps completely.
Yeah.
You don't want an exchange of ideas when you're wrong and you don't have the facts on your side. So I don't mind it at all, and I love to debate people that are wrong.
All right, we got to take a break. But when we come back, Pat Robertson has tragically passed away. So we will remember his accomplishments, we'll remember his life and the impact he had on the United States.
All right, back during the break here. Dystopian Dragon writes on Super Chat, zombie workers. Okay, don't give Morici any ideas. So,
I love how Morici's idea is like, it's okay, we'll just drug them.
Yeah, we'll just drug them and wheel them in. Okay, they're just widgets anyway. What difference does it make? Pitchfork's Dragon says, Cenk, I don't know if anyone told you, but I appreciate the way you spanked Destiny in that debate. Well done. Look, guys,
Did you spank him, Cenk?
I don't think I did.
Are you spank?
No. So, but seriously, guys, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. I was perfectly thrilled with how that debate went, but I actually like to have a discussion. And so I don't want it to be like, oh, I spanked him or I destroyed him, like all that Ben Shapiro nonsense that he does with his like trolls and stuff. No, it was a good discussion.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you like Biden, maybe you'll love what Destiny said, you know. And if you like establishment Democrats, like okay, he's like a super rare fighter for corporate Democrats online, super rare, right? So it was a good exchange of ideas. Check it out if you can. It's on our YouTube channel. Okay, now I'm going to YouTube members. Christina Lisa Brown says Anna's right. This can cause a civil war because no way when talking about cutting Social Security. And now let's go to Twitch. I am Sock says, referring to the first Merck story we did, which part of the Bill of Rights gives us the right to profitability? But they're genuinely making that case in court now. They made it in the union case that we covered just a couple of days ago, where they said the union did a strike, it cost us money. Now the union owes us profits that we are guaranteed by the. Like almost saying it by the US Constitution. You're not guaranteed profits by anything. What the hell kind of free markets is this? Adam Smith would be rolling around in his grave, guaranteed profits. This isn't capitalism at all. This is insanity. And Teddy Bear Dragon says, maybe the media is just using Christie to say what DeSantis can't because of the base. Ding, 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 we got a winner. That is exactly right. They're like, we want to protect DeSantis so that his credibility with the base isn't hurt. Send in Chris Christie with a 2x4, let him do most of the damage. I mean, it's damn near coordinated. And then they say that progressives are biased. Hilarious, hilarious. Tall Glass of Shut Up Juice with an interesting theory about Pence. Pence is breathing like his girdle is too tight. I hope there's a medic nearby. If that's what Mike and mother are into, respect, okay, if that's what they do, respect, okay? Didn't see that coming. That's what she said. All right, Eclectic Miscellaneous says, Pence has accomplished something I didn't think was possible, or has accomplished something I didn't think was possible, coming off as even more pathetically weak than establishment Democrats. Unfortunately, fair. All right, I'm out of time, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. I was looking down because we've got a new member. I get it, whip it, flip it. Okay, good for you. And Julie Curtis, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, guys. Members make the show happen. That's why we do the show with you guys. We read your comments during the breaks and sometimes during the stories. Join buttons below. You know it, I know it, the American people know it. Casper.
All right, sad news today. Televangelist and longtime friend of the show, Pat Robertson, has died at the young age of 93. The cause of death was that he was 93. But in all seriousness, his family confirmed that he has passed away, but they did not give a reason for his passing. Obviously, he was up there in age. Now, before we get to some details about his life, how he became a prominent force within the evangelical movement, why don't we remember him for who he really was?
What is this mac and cheese? Is that a black thing?
It is a black thing, Pat.
You might get AIDS in Kenya. If people have AIDS, you got to be careful. I mean, the towels can have AIDS. And the Bible says, if any man will not work, let him not eat. Now, that didn't say if any man will not work, let him go to the soup kitchen and let the government pick up the tab. Something happened a long time ago in Haiti. They got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, we will serve you if you'll get us free from the French. I'm talking about the cheating. He cheated on you. Well, he's a man, okay. There are a bunch of people who are just bums. And if these people are out drugging themselves, let them starve to death.
May you rest in peace, Cenk.
Yeah, so look, Pat Robertson was an interesting cat because he was, he seemed like they described him as like a cherub, like he was almost cute, right? His appearance.
What's wrong with you?
No, hold on.
There's nothing cute about that appearance.
No, well, okay, it's certainly not earlier in his life, but I think later.
Who calls him cute? Who calls him cute, Cenk?
No, his name is not Pat, it's Marion. The reason why his nickname became Pat is because his brothers would pat him on the cheeks because he had big cheeks. Okay, that's where he gets Pat Robertson from. So, and then later he actually turned on Trump and he said that Trump was exhibiting very erratic behavior and inhabited an alternate reality. Okay, yep. So, and as he was like doing these crazy but like hilarious things in his 80s and 90s, we were showing it to you guys on air, etc. But that is a giant lead up to don't get it twisted. He's a terrible guy, or he was a terrible guy.
I love that you front loaded his cute chubby cheeks in your commentary.
Because I'm the fairest man in America.
Right.
Okay, so look, I think actually the very worst, and there's tons of terrible stuff we're gonna show you in a second.
We showed you a lot of it.
Yeah, I've got more quotes.
Okay.
But was the one in the middle there, if you noticed. He said that the Haitians had made a pact with the devil to be free of slavery. Like liberating themselves was a devil-inspired thing to do. Like they should have just remained slaves. They should have just remained slaves, but since they freed themselves, that Haiti had the earthquake coming to them because of that deal with the devil.
Yeah.
And this was one of the most popular preachers in American history. People would watch that crap and go, oh yeah, those black people after they liberated themselves. How dare they? That was obviously a deal with the devil, and America would cheer. So like that's why I partly brought up like, oh, now it was in his 90s, and people were like, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. He was a terrible guy, and he drove this country into a disastrous situation when he combined Christian nationalism with the Republican Party.
Now, he did have some influence. The show that he hosted was the 700 Club, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. Not only the impact it had here in the United States, but apparently that show was carried internationally. So for decades, he was a host of the 700 Club, a casual talk show that combined hard right politics, faith healing, and lifestyle news, broadcast in dozens of languages and in more than 200 countries. I didn't know about that. The show made Reverend Robertson the world's most watched TV preacher, which, given what he would say, is pretty terrifying. Now, Robertson often predicted doom for those he deemed insufficiently righteous and attributed natural disasters and other calamities to perceived political and moral failings. For instance, when Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast in 2005, he suggested the storm was God's punishment for legal abortion.
And you would believe that if you were mentally insane, like a total lunatic. And guys, so he's actually was super privileged. He grew up the son of a congressman and senator and went to Yale Law School, very, very privileged, okay? So, but at some point he turned to religion and he started speaking in tongues. I have a translation for that. It's called losing your mind, okay? So now some people get offended if you're Pentecostal and you believe that no, when I speak in tongues, it's God speaking through me. No, you should go see a therapist because that means you're either on the precipice or you have already lost your mind. You're in a completely alternate reality. There is no such thing as speaking in tongues. God's not speaking through you. Okay, so he took that turn where he's like, all right, I'm now a lunatic, right? And unfortunately, he took a huge portion of the country with him because the minute he started the 700 Club and the
Christian Coalition,
right?
Yeah,
he was a huge part of turning the Republican Party into a fundamentalist, crazed Christian party. Okay, before Christians didn't want to get into politics. Pat Robertson is one of the guys who convinced them to get into politics so they could basically damage people they don't like, and I got more evidence of that in a second. But if you think Hurricane Katrina was because of legal abortion and made God angry and wanted to punish the poor people of New Orleans who had nothing to do with abortion in the first place, okay? Well, yeah, you're a lunatic. And so in the old days, if you said that, they would drive you from media. Oh, how could you say that? That is the revered Reverend Pat Robertson. Sorry, those rules are nonsense.
Now, in 1988, he was seeking the GOP presidential nomination. He was running for president. And at some point in that primary, he actually did well, and then something stood in the way. So according to this obit written in the Washington Post, Robertson had a deeper campaign war chest than any candidate except the eventual president, George H.W. Bush. But members of his old Marine Corps unit, including former Congressman Pete McCloskey, a Republican from California, came forward to say he had this is so quaint, very sweet. He came forward to say that Robertson had exaggerated his record in the Korean War. Robertson filed a $35 million slander lawsuit, but against McCloskey, but he later dropped it. Anyway, apparently that caused enough damage. Robertson was actually doing well. He finished ahead of Bush in the Iowa caucuses, but the embarrassing episode over his military record helped derail his campaign, and he quit the race after running poorly in the early primaries.
Yeah, so now let me get to more of his heinous stuff. In 2005, he said that we should assassinate President Hugo Chavez of Venezuela. And then when challenged on it, he's like, well, like, I mean, was that what Jesus would do? I thought he would turn the other cheek, not murder people, right? He said, no. I said, take him out. It could also mean kidnapping. That was his explanation for it. Wow, that sounds much better. Appreciate it. He says he supports Israel, but don't get it twisted either. At the end, Israel needs to be destroyed and demolished in Armageddon. And he thought that a secret cabal of Jews and Freemasons ruled America. So a deep anti-Semite. And my whole life, I've been seeing Pat Robertson, because I've been covering politics for 25 years. And the mainstream media, for about 20 of those years, would kiss this guy's ass 24/7. And if you said that guy's anti-Semitic and actually believes that that all the Jews should die at the end and that they secretly run the country, they'd be like, how dare you quote him? No, you have to have more reverence for the Reverend Pat Robertson, and he loves Israel. Okay, so I'm so glad we're past that total propaganda about this awful guy. He said Hinduism was demonic. He said feminism was, quote, a socialist anti-family political movement that encourages women to leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians.
I like the intersectionality of that argument. Lots of issues packed into one ridiculous, like, lunatic statement.
Yeah, and I didn't know that feminists were that powerful. Jesus, they sound like the most powerful force on earth. September 11th, of course, was because of non-believers, abortion providers, feminists, and gay people, of course. But funny enough, it turns out, Mr. You have to be appropriate in sex, when he was younger and before he was married, had lots of girlfriends, okay, and would go clubbing in New York all the time. And when he and his beloved Dee Dee Robertson got married, she was 6 months pregnant.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, of course, he's like, no, you don't do premarital sex. That is very naughty. That'll lead to hurricanes and liberating black people. It's terrible. I mean, of course, I get to do it. Don't be crazy.
I mean, I guess he really did have those sweet cheeks.
Last thing, he made hundreds of millions of dollars from that broadcasting network. And because he helped dictators like Mobutu Sese Seko in Congo do gold and diamond mining, because that's what Jesus would have wanted.
All right, when we come back from the break, we have much to get to, including, do we keep it light or should we talk about you guys being price gouged? I don't know. Oh, we gotta do Dirty Waters. We're gonna do Dirty Waters when we come back.
Go.
Don't miss it.
All right, let's go to YouTube members. Modern Relic said Robertson was actually getting a little less conservative as he aged. Another 93 years, and maybe he could have been a half decent person. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, he did get a little tiny bit less conservative, but it would have taken a long time to get anywhere near decent. Croker47 says the only thing scarier than Robertson's crazy stuff is the fact that he may have actually believed it. Yeah, I mean, that's why I say, look, these guys, they get detached from reality. When I say crazy, I mean very literally detached from reality. Where if you think that God is making you go, and you think that gay people are causing hurricanes, you've lost your mind, and period. I swear to you guys, for 20 years in my career, I was considered nuts for saying that. Like, it was considered absolutely crazy and unacceptable to say that people like Pat Robertson were lunatics. You have to respect the tongue speaking in tongues community. Wrong again, Bob, I don't. Neurodivergent Dragon says, I will never forget what Pat Robertson said about Haitians, my people, after the earthquake. Evil always lives way too long. Vissier, if I said that right. So look, there's also that stupid rule of mainstream media, which is don't speak ill of the dead. Well, it depends, doesn't it? Hitler's dead. Can I speak ill of him? Hell yeah, I can. Well, not right after he died. Yeah, right after he died, I can do it. Yes, watch me. And I can do it for Scalia, and I can do it for Pat Robertson, and God willing, one day, some other folks on that list. All right. So Dragon with a Girl Tattoo in the member section says, the charge that I really want to see is the one that prevents Trump from being president again. Prison would be great to see, but him being president again would be a worldwide nightmare. I couldn't agree with you more, 100% agreed. Like he goes to prison, he doesn't, yeah, sure, there's some catharsis in that and there's justice in that. But to me, the most important thing is that he not run again for president because I like democracy and I don't want to get rid of it. By the way, check out our newsletter, it's fantastic. TYT.com/newsletter to get it, and it's pretty much the only progressive newsletter. You scan that QR code as well. Okay, now back to our members. Lich McConnell writes in, Mike Pence is 100% a Ken doll. His hair is injection molded. He looks like Tim Allen's evil rubber Santa from the second Santa Claus. Okay, love that analogy or that point. Dragon with a Girl Tattoo says he's still mad that Trump gave him COVID, referring to Chris Christie. He's mad about a lot of things, okay, but that's probably one of them, and it's true. The thing he's most mad about is he was the first guy to back Trump, so don't forget that about Chris Christie either. And then remember, he stood like a goon behind him. John used to make fun of it. Well, he was expecting that he would become vice president, and Trump didn't give him that, partly because he thought this guy is too much of a challenge to me. I want a guy as boring as Mike Pence, so that it's not a challenge to me, and partly because Chris Christie was too overweight in Trump's mind, and so he didn't look the part. That's kind of disgusting guy Trump is. All right, we'll be back. Back on TYT, Jane, Anna, and David McCallum, who just joined, and Trisha Briggs, who gifted a membership on YouTube. We appreciate it. Breaking news.
Huge breaking news, so let's do it. Donald Trump has officially been indicted in the case involving classified and top secret documents. This story just broke. Trump said on Truth Social that his attorneys have informed him that he has been indicted. I'm pulling up his Truth Social post as we speak.
Okay, then let me get in there.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Down goes, well, hold. It's just an indictment. He didn't get convicted. He's not going to prison. He can still run for president. We'll see how it goes. But there has been for years, for like 2 years straight, a lot of heavy breathing on MSNBC, like, it's gonna get indicted, it's gonna get indicted any second, right? But finally, you know how slow the Democrats and the bureaucrats are, finally gets invited on the documents case, which I think is one of the strongest and most important cases against him. So this one is a doozy.
Yeah, so obviously he's already been indicted in a separate case involving his hush money payments to, adult performers. This is a different indictment, and I do agree that this is a much stronger case. So let's go to what Trump had to say about it on Truth Social. So he posted that, I have been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States who received far more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country and is currently leading by far all candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in polls of the 2024 presidential election. And then he ends that post with an all caps, I am an innocent man, exclamation mark.
It's classic Trump.
Yeah.
So he got the most votes of any person running for president, except the guy he was running against, who got 7 million more votes than him. Okay, so he kind of left that out. I know I'm sure he's gonna go back and correct it. All right, so this is the case that we were telling you about earlier today. He definitely took the documents. They were tons of classified, secret, and the most secret documents we have in American government. Top secret documents. Okay.
Top secret documents that can only be reviewed in specific government facilities.
Yes, and he took them home. The manner in which he took them home is illegal. The fact that he kept them in Florida after he was president is illegal. The fact that and the most important part is the government asked for them back, and he hid them. He chose not to give it back when then he had an official notice to bring them back. He hid them several times over. He used his lawyers to lie to the government that he'd given it back. It shows intent, it shows malice, it shows that it wasn't an accident, he did it on purpose. Every other former official, when they found any kind of documents in their house and none of them were anywhere near as classified as these, they would immediately give it back, including Republicans like Mike Pence. But Trump refused to give them back. We now have a story about how one of the documents was our plans in case we invade Iran, how we were going to invade Iran, which is an incredibly valuable document. And apparently he was showing that to people in Bedminster, New Jersey, not even at Mar-a-Lago. It's not at all clear that we've even gotten all the documents back. It's very possible he's still hiding more documents. And now, I don't know if the Mark Meadows case is about January 6th or about this case, but Mark Meadows, his former chief of staff, has apparently testified to the grand jury. So that's a pretty devastating situation. They've got tons of evidence in this case, and it is a very important case. If it wasn't the president, Democrat or Republican, a normal government official had done what Trump did, they'd be facing decades in prison.
So let's talk a little bit about his very final post. I'm sure he'll be posting more about this. He says a lot that I agree with here, actually. He says that this is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. I agree with that. It is a dark day. It's a dark day when it's abundantly clear that a former leader of this nation potentially committed serious crimes. We are a country in serious and rapid decline. I agree with that. But together we will make America great again.
Really, from inside a prison cell? Okay.
I mean, look, I just want to keep expectations low. He's not going to end up in prison. Come on.
No, so that seems impossible, not because of Trump, but because of the powerful. The powerful never go to prison unless they rob from other rich people, right? Like Bernie Madoff. So we know our gut is screaming to us, for all of us, he's not gonna go to prison, he's a former president. Even the guys who claim to hate him, they just want him out of politics, but they don't want to actually have him go to prison because that might affect them. I get it, except once you go inside a courtroom, it's just the jurors, right? And then they're gonna need the judges to overturn anything the jurors do, because the judges are in the establishment, they're among the powerful, right? So they might overturn something a jury does, but is a jury gonna see this overwhelming evidence against him and say that he's not guilty? I think that's pretty unlikely.
Yeah, we're getting more details. According to ABC News, Trump has been indicted on at least 7 charges, including illegal retention of classified documents, obstruction, and conspiracy. He had, after that raid happened, of course, we had reported on this, but just to remind you, the FBI had seized 13,000 documents from Mar-a-Lago. At least 100 of those documents were reportedly marked classified, and Trump had later been caught on tape discussing a document in his possession and nothing he couldn't share, and noting he couldn't share its contents as he had no right to declassify it since leaving office. That was another big story that we shared with you all. And that admission on tape is pretty brutal to his defense.
Because he keeps saying I could laserize the documents, and the minute I hold them or touch them or look at them, they become declassified. But he's on tape with a biographer for maybe Mark Meadows, where he says, oh, these are classified and I have them, ha ha. Well, so now you know that they were classified and you didn't give them back to the government, and those were apparently the ones about invading Iran. And so look, I've said this before, and now that the charges are out, this is breaking right now, live as we are. So I haven't had a chance to evaluate all the charges, but it doesn't look like the biggest thing is in there, which again, I don't know, and it would have been amazing if they had found it, but we'll have to see what they say in court. It could still put it in there, but to me, the thing, number one thing I was worried about is those documents are very, very valuable, and he did get millions of dollars from the Saudis through the Live Golf tournament, and his son-in-law Jared Kushner got $2 billion to invest from the Saudis as soon as they got out of office. So if he sold the documents, that would be a completely different level. But right now, based on what we're seeing, it looks like the charges are just about him taking them home and not giving them back and obstructing justice.
Well, we go from one clown to another. Let's go to Jesse Waters.
If I'm the boss and my workers pull this garbage, this is what I do. I start garnishing wages. And then I start docking vacation days. And then you know what I do? What? I get my private security guards to go over to her house on a Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock to see what she's up to.
It is incredible that the very individuals, especially in conservative media, who go around accusing teachers of being groomers, openly admit to their creepy tendencies on air. That was Jesse Waters talking about what he would do to employees if he were their boss in the context of a discussion about remote work. Now, of course, Fox has this mentality that workers are like lazy and you have to keep an eye on them. They're against the remote work. Now 61% of people working from home are doing so because they want to, even though their office is open. People do prefer remote work for a variety of reasons, right? You save time, you don't have to deal with the commute, you save money, you don't have to spend money on gas, and you're in the comfort of your own home as you're working. Now, that was according to a January survey, by the way, of almost 6,000 workers. And here's another poll from the Society for HR Management. I did not know that society existed, but apparently it does. So 48% of about 1,700 surveyed workers in the US said they will definitely seek a remote position for their next job. Employees would consider pursuing or remaining in an on-site role for an annual raise of 20% with a 30-minute commute, 15% with a 15-minute commute, or 10% for a hybrid job with a 30-minute commute. So before we get to more creepy video of Dirty Waters, do you have any thoughts on this, Cenk?
Yeah, so look, it's a fine debate about, hey, should people come in or not? I think it depends on the job that's at stake here. But Jesse Waters gives you a sense of how conservatives think. They don't think from the perspective of the employees, the average American. They think from the perspective of the boss, the rich person who needs to use them as widgets and brutalize them, and he's gonna be honest about it.
Now, after he went on that little rant about what he would do if he were the employer and the workers were working remotely, apparently Jeanine Pirro concluded that he would face some sort of harassment lawsuit if he were ever to pull off that sick stunt. Let's take a look at that exchange.
Maybe I find her at the mall. Maybe she's at TGI Fridays throwing back cocktails. Maybe I have footage of her trying on blouses at Ann Taylor.
No, you
and then you know what I do? I give her an opportunity to be honest. I say, listen, were you working on the project on Thursday afternoon? And if she lies to me and she says, yes, I was, I present her with the evidence. You were trying on blouses. You were knocking back cocktails. And then she says, you were following me? And then I said, I will waste my own company resources on frivolous, petty things like that, however I damn well please. I'm the CEO of this company. And then she says, you know what, I'm firing an HR complaint against you. I said, you can't file one because you just got fired. And then you know what I do? I hire someone half her age and pay her half her salary.
Yeah, and then you know what? She charges you with stalking and harassment.
Jeanine Pirro's right, because that is what he would be doing. But it's interesting what he likes to fantasize about.
Yeah, so 2 different cases he said that he would have tape of her changing blouses, right?
Yeah.
Seems relatively obsessed with that, right? So that's point 1. Point 2 is Jeanine Pirro caught feelings, not at that, but when he said, I'd fire her and hire someone half her age at half her salary. And then all of a sudden, finally, everybody's, the guys are laughing, right? Including former Democrat Harold Ford Jr. there, okay? But then Piero's like, wait a minute, what do you mean half age, half the salary?
Janine,
and that is what employers do that are jerks like Jesse Waters.
Yeah, Janine, get to know the room you're in, get to know the people you surround yourself with and what they actually think about you. Now, look, Jesse Waters has said so many creepy things on air that we literally have a compilation about it. So let's watch.
When I was trying to get Emma to date me, first thing I did, let the air out of her tires. She couldn't go anywhere. She needed a lift. I said, hey, you need a lift? She hopped right in the car.
Does she know this story?
No, she doesn't know this story. And I want to speak directly to the heiress right now. Dana, hold my hand.
Oh, boy.
Jeez.
Women need men. And men need women. We need each other. And if you understand nature, you understand there is not a war between the sexes. We need to make love, not war. That's AOC. She's not ripe enough to run for president. First, she has to get married. And then you have to get pregnant. So
why?
No. This is how it goes. Single women are breaking for Democrats by 30 points. And this makes sense when you think about how Democrat policies are designed to keep women single. So we need these ladies to get married. Women do not like making decisions. They want a man to make the decisions.
Jesse, when do you go?
Obviously, he's disgusting, he's terrible, he's a sexist, misogynist, hence the leading candidate to take Tucker Carlson's job. All right, in the bonus episode for the members, can you pick up women and men at Home Depot? Interesting. TYT.com/join, or if you're on YouTube, hit the join button below, and we'll see you there in a minute.
Hey everyone, Matteo Scarapo here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in